I'm Helen, therapist, author, and your host of the I Don't Think We Talk Enough About podcast, where each week I'm joined by wonderful guests who bring their warmth, wisdom, and wealth of experience to talk about the things I just don't think we talk enough about. And this week I'm delighted to welcome Lavina Mehta, MBE, which we will definitely be talking about in the podcast. Lavina is a personal trainer and so much more, and she's here today to talk about her concept of snacking, but not how you may view snacking. This is a revolutionary concept to get us moving and caring for ourselves through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond, holistically, and I can't wait to dive into what I know is going to be a hugely nourishing and inspiring conversation. Lavina, welcome. I'm so excited to meet you. We've been talking so much off camera. We thought we'd better get started, but welcome.
Oh, it's such an honour to be here and so beautiful to see you in real life. I'm so excited.
It's so lovely, isn't it, just to bring that face to face again, isn't it, when so much of our lives is online. And we'll definitely come into that as we explore your book today, because so much of it is about that as well. But I invited you on today to talk about your brilliant concept of snacking and your brilliant book, lots of brilliance here, but your brilliant book, The Feel Good Fix. Boost energy, improve sleep, and move more through menopause and beyond. And hold it up for the camera. Wonderful book that you've written. But where did this all start? Because I'm wondering whether it started with the MBE. And I wondered whether you, we can't skirt over that or around that. We have to talk about that. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's still a bit of a surreal pinch me moment, even when you say it now. If you've been following my journey, I would say that the last 5 or 6 years have been totally unplanned, very, very exciting. But I never actually thought I would be here with you, Helen, on a podcast like this. So thank you so much for having me. These incredible opportunities have come out of nowhere, really, because I only qualified as a personal trainer at the age of 40, and I'm now 46. I was never really into exercise, let alone, thinking that I'd be an author one day. But it was exercise really that transformed my 30s, and I only discovered it in my 30s because I guess being South Asian, especially in my community, it was not something that I was really educated or aware about, the importance of movement, lifestyle changes, especially for our long-term health. And it was when I had had my youngest son after pregnancy. So he's 17 now. I've got 3 amazing boys. And I had probably put on so much weight. I was probably double my size. Although, it's not about I always say it's not about how we look. But now my messaging is so much more about how it makes us feel and the magic it does inside that we can't see. But I had put on a lot of weight, and I was probably on the road to having type 2 diabetes, which is rife in my community, being South Asian. And I joined the gym when the kids were all settled into nursery and preschool and higher education. And I fell in love with strength training, which I never imagined little Lavina would be lifting heavy weights. But it transformed, Helen, my body, which was great, the physical transformation. But most importantly, I think it was what it did up here and the mental side. And that's where, my slogan, I always try to say it, exercise for sanity, not vanity. And I truly believe that. Thank you. I qualified at the age of 40 just because I sat the exams, because I thought this has transformed me and I want to learn more about it. It was inspired probably by my mum, who's a cookery writer and a chef, and she wrote books about the science of food. The last one being one that we self-published, and I typed when I was pregnant with my youngest son. So that introduced me to the world of nutrition and how important it is and what it can do for our bodies and our long-term health. And it was called Feel Good with Food, which is where I just picked up a random Instagram handle called Feel Good with Lavina, following in Mum's footsteps. And I sat the exams just out of interest, never thinking it would be a career, never thinking I'd train anyone. And some friends started finding out. And it was about a year before the pandemic. So they were like, Lavina, you've qualified. Can you train me? I really don't know what to do in the gym. And they were probably watching what I was doing. And I started training women, Helen, during the school run in my basement, and never realised there'd be so much demand for women's training. And I had women from the age of 30 to 71, lots of different goals, lots of amazing experience. And then the pandemic hit, and that's when.
Quite soon after you'd qualified then, really?
Yes, so just about a
year,
year and
18
a half,
months, yes.
And the gyms were closing, and the gym was such a saviour for me and my husband through life experiences like grief. You know, I'd lost my father-in-law, who I was so close to, and we lived with in a joint family when I first got married. And he unfortunately had a brain tumour. So we lost him within 6 months. And it was times like that where, you know, that sanity that I'm talking about was just escaping to the sort of exercise environment, either a walk or going to the gym. And it was helping me through so many of these challenges that we're all going to face as we age. And the pandemic had hit, and I had actually just before been picked up by Sky News because I did a very silly, very fun exercise snack advent calendar in 2019, which is so fun just to watch back at how crazy I was. But I, discovered this concept in about 2018, and I was amazed, Helen. I was like, if it just shows that, so if anyone doesn't know what exercise snacking is, it's all about short bite-sized amounts of movement, even as short as a minute, the science is showing, can be as effective, if not more effective, than the hour-long workout that we sometimes just simply can't fit into our busy lives.
No, I know.
So I thought that's a game changer, and I wanted to get it out there. So they picked it up, and that gave me real confidence to try and get this message out to more people and help more people. And it just became my mission then. And I did those twice daily workouts, the exercise snacks at lunchtime during the first lockdown, to a structured evening program. And going back to your question, after quite a long story.
It's the background, isn't it? It doesn't just happen.
It's definitely, I feel like it's been written. It's like my path and my purpose now. But the MBE was really surreal because I got an email just in July. So just a few months after I'd started in March, I was probably one of the first personal trainers, to be online and just go for it on social media. And I got an email, and it said that I've been awarded an MBE, and I just thought it was a joke. So
oh, no.
I literally thought someone's pulling my leg. So I called up the palace, and I had to keep it under wraps. And they were like, would you like to accept it, or you can decline? And I was like, oh my goodness, what an incredible, I was so humbled and so honoured. And then it was announced in October 2020 with the likes of, Marcus Rashford and Joe Wicks and Mr. Motivator. So little Lavina was there. And
you were there. You were there too.
It was exciting.
But you were really helping people who weren't doing much movement, weren't you? You were really making exercise accessible to people, to all types of people. And you were making it very accessible at a time where people couldn't get access to a gym.
Exactly.
And talk to me a little bit more about the research. You talk about it in the book around the small bursts that, I can bring up actually. You talked about, this was fascinating. One of the most exciting pieces of research for me is a 2022 study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which states that just 11 minutes of daily exercise can substantially reduce a person's risk of early death and help prevent heart disease, stroke, and some cancers.
Yes.
Researchers found that 1 in 10 premature deaths could be prevented if people exercise for 75 minutes a week or 11 minutes a day.
Yeah.
But when I was reading this, and 11 minutes just seems
Doable.
so achievable.
Yay, exactly.
So achievable that you could almost imagine putting several 11 minutes in your day.
I would love that.
I mean, that's me
Yeah.
getting optimistic
But
here.
it's a great start.
But it's a great start.
Yes.
And then not beating yourself up if you haven't done more.
Totally.
But so I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to also bring in, because of myself being a therapist, the mental health aspects of those 11 minutes. It's not just the physical disease, is it?
No. So 11 minutes came from above because I was walking into Penguin's office for our kickoff meeting. And, exercise snacking was the sort of theme of the book, but, it also talks, there's a whole section on mental health and lifestyle that we'll talk about. And everything is backed by science. There's 40 pages of, studies and research that I just found fascinating. For me, it has to be evidence-based. And 11 minutes just came out as a study when I was walking in, and I looked on my newsfeed and I was like, I want to find something that is tangible, that's doable. We know how many of us can't hit the government guidelines of physical activity, which is basically double that. So it's 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous. So that's really high intensity.
A week.
Okay. Plus the 2 or 3 strength training workouts. And even a study that I saw a few days ago showed that, 90% of people in the UK aren't hitting that guideline.
So 90%.
Yeah, that's just a new study that's come out. And, I've seen the studies before. We know at least, 50 to 60% of us aren't hitting those guidelines. We know how busy and fast-paced our lifestyles are these days. And 11 minutes just feels doable. The great news is, Helen, that even if you did little minutes, so I've based the book on 1, 3, 5, and 10 minutes. Yes. So even if you split up that 11 minutes, it still helps and counts. I want everyone to know that every single minute that you do actually counts. Because I think what happens is if we don't get time to have that hour's workout or go to the gym, a lot of us just give up. We get annoyed with ourselves and we just think, forget it, I'm not going to be able to do it. So for me, it's a great way for people to start. And of course, the more, the better. But the beauty of exercise snacking is if you think about, doing a minute a few times, sprinkling these little treats, as I call them, into your day, it's showing us that each time you do it, your metabolism is firing up. You can reduce your blood pressure, the studies are showing, cholesterol levels, your blood sugar levels, which we know are often on that real roller coaster. And we want to try and control them because that can affect your mood and your energy and your productivity during the day. In terms of weight gain, which I know, I always say it's not about how we look, but obviously maintaining a healthy weight is really important for long-term disease risk reduction.
Of course.
So it's showing us that this is a great tool for achieving that healthy weight that you want to get to. It's also great for your mental health, which you touched on, because I don't know about you, but for me, it's every time I move, even if I don't feel like it, it always makes me feel better. You know how the common sort of phrase is, you'll never regret a workout. But I'm talking about even if I just go for one of my feel-good walk snacks, if I can't go out into the woods for 30 minutes, which I would love to every day in nature, because I think nature has its own section in the book because it's such an incredible tool that we all need to have nature in our lives. It's like my therapy, I always call it. But even 5 minutes can work wonders, and simple things that you can do from the comfort of your home, in your pajamas. You'll see me showing things on social media anywhere and everywhere. I'll get people squatting in Parliament in their suits. I'll be in workplaces, on my talks, or I'll be just in my pajamas because I want it to just be accessible and a little bit normalized, like in the workplaces when I say do your press ups when the kettle's, you're waiting for your coffee, or balance on one leg. And like the more I do it, I'm hoping that in the future it will become normal, because it's so incredible for, even if we talk about at work, we're just like sitting for such long periods. The fact that people on average in the UK are sitting for about 10 hours a day, So for me, that's obviously like sitting is a new smoking. It can lead on to so many long-term chronic conditions like type 2 diabetes, to heart disease, to just the common back and neck pain and the kyphosis, that rounding of the spine that we all feel. We'll do our desk reset snack. That's in my book, right?
I know.
Just
I want
a
to
little
come to
bit
your
of
favourites in a
movements.
bit.
Yeah, but it's very powerful, I think, to know that you can do 11 minutes. And then on the mental health side, when we move, we release these incredible hormones called endorphins, and they're just waiting to be released. We know that it's going to help you with common, symptoms I think we all feel, all ages, in terms of stress levels, anxiety, the brain fog. We're starting to talk about some of the sort of perimenopause symptoms as well. But I feel like even younger, even my children, when I see how much we're all relying on technology and how it's changed our lives so much, it's not all bad, because obviously you and I try and use our platforms to help people, for good messages. But we know the amount of time we're sitting and spending on our screens. So I think we need to just try and think about, every time you're sitting for over 30 minutes, I've written in the book, but even if you start with an hour, if you could just move for 3 minutes, just pick a snack. It's very accessible. The book is like a pick and mix, right?
Do you want to explain that for the listeners? Because you really do write it out in a format that feels so accessible, because you don't just leave people to get on with 11 minutes. You've got a real pick and mix that you can choose, whether it's a balancing thing or a little bit of weights, or do you want to talk through?
Yeah, that would be amazing. So the book is really, I just want it to be like your companion, and you can have anywhere. And when people say, I haven't got time to read books, I'm always like, this is not your typical book. So we've laid the snacks out as a recipe. And whenever I get anyone, that I meet, I always say, just open it up on any page, somewhere in the middle, and we'll kind of see what snack it is. Hopefully it's something that your body might enjoy or crave.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay. So
you've got a nice challenging one.
I know. I'm not.
But it's
I'm
an
not
important
going to do
one.
No, I'm sure there's some smaller ones.
That's your homework.
This is a 10-minute snack. So this is a lower body strength and cardio snack. So,
and it's laid out like a recipe. So I wanted the snacks, with the pun intended. It's got like the benefits, it's got the method. Obviously the exercises are written out, and the font is actually bespoke font for this book, because we all wanted big, clear font, especially my mum. But especially for perimenopausal, like the changes in your eyes.
Yes.
A lot of us, can't read that small text anymore. So I want it just to be very easy and clear. And then it has QR codes if you turn over.
I know it does. This is brilliant.
Yeah, that's my husband's idea. So thank you, Menel.
What's your husband's name?
Menel, yeah.
Thank you, Menel.
Yes, he came up with this and the publishers were thrilled. And it sends you straight to a YouTube video of the exercise. So you've kind of got me alongside. So I want to make sure people are using proper form and technique, especially when it comes to things like strength training. And then it gives you the top tips and ways that you can maybe stack your snack. So if you had a 1-minute snack and you felt like, okay, that was amazing, I want to do a little bit more, it gives you other ideas. And it also gives you ideas of how you can tie the snacks onto your existing daily habits, which I think is really important. So like I said, brushing your teeth, balancing on one leg is something that I do.
I love that.
And that has its own snack, and it has its own targets based on your age and your gender. On balance is so important. We start losing our balance in midlife, and obviously we want to reduce our risks of falls as we get older.
It's a really important point
in life,
isn't it?
later life. Just ideas of like when you've got a moment when the kettle's boiling, when you're cooking, what to do before bed to maybe encourage a nice, deeper quality sleep. And then it has a mood menu. Did you see that at the back? And the mood menu.
What page are we going to?
It says just towards the back, and it's basically based on.
It's so holistic.
Yeah,
you're not
how
just
you're
focusing.
feeling. So it's going to show you here. I think you've got it here. So anytime, any different types of mood. So I've got things like when you're feeling anxious or low mood or sitting too long. I've just listed out a little menu for you that you can just reference and maybe think about. It just gives you ideas of what things could actually help you, obviously backed by science. And then also towards the front on the how to use bit, it says, how you could build up to that 11 minutes. So I've given some 11 minutes
You
snack
have.
plans.
I loved those. I really loved those.
And then I've given some longer ones, 30 minutes as well, because obviously the more the better. But, just start off small, and then hopefully it's about finding your toolkit and things that you enjoy. I think that's most important when it comes to the exercise section of the book.
Yes, and that's what I talk to clients about a lot, is find something that works for you.
Yes,
we're not all the
different.
same, are we? And I love the way you've brought in that mood menu, because we're not always feeling great, are we? And
no,
and it's hard to feel motivated.
Yes.
Actually, I wanted to talk about motivation, but before we get there, I did want to talk. I thought it was fascinating. You talked about, because obviously I wanted to talk about the midlife aspect and the perimenopause and menopause, which obviously this has helped you immensely.
100%.
And I think it will help others immensely. But you talked about the realness of that hormone fluctuation and how, I never like to make things up. I need to make sure that I've read it properly. Recite your words wrong.
I love that you're...
all my books are like
I love this. I love it.
I always say to my children, you can borrow my books, but they've got lots of pencil markings in. As estrogen, and I wasn't aware of this at all. This was really new to me, and it kind of really made a lot of sense to me.
Great.
And I think it will make a lot of sense to other people too. And this was, as estrogen declines, serotonin production and receptors are affected.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Humongous.
When I work in mental health and we're looking for serotonin, dopamine, how to work with that, I can't get over that. And no wonder we have those low moods.
Yes. So, in the first few pages of the book, I wanted to highlight, especially around mental health. So this is part of, I think, it's such an important point to note, that it's actually your body and the changes that you're going through, that we're all going to go through as women, that can affect your mental health so much. And I've actually said, in October 2021, the independent newspaper reported exclusive research based on a survey of 2,000 women aged 46 to 60 in the UK, which found that 9 out of 10 women going through the menopausal transition experience mental health problems. 9 out of 10.
That's huge.
And I'm sure you see it in your work. And 1 in 10 experience thoughts of suicide. And I've written, if you're struggling with this huge life change, you are really not alone. And there are many things that can help. I think that's one of the most important things that, I've been on this, journey to really share my own experience, but I really want women to know that they're not alone. And when I first came out talking in tears on Instagram about my perimenopause, which I only realised I was in it about 2.5 years ago with the whole menopause revolution and watching the Channel 4 documentary, which brought me to tears. But I'd been going through it since the age of 39 or 40, because for anyone listening, in the UK, the average white female will go through the menopause at the age of 51. That's the average age. And if anyone doesn't know, menopause is really just that point in time where you've not had your periods, your menstrual cycle for a year. But the perimenopause can last up to a decade before that. Gosh. And for South Asian women, with the limited research that we have in women's health, it's indicating that South Asian women like myself will go through it 5 or 6 years earlier than the average white female. So I'm 46 and I'm very much on that path of hitting the menopause very soon. But my perimenopause started at the age of 39 or 40, which I didn't realise. At the same time as kicking off this whole unplanned career path, I'd qualified as a personal trainer, gone, into social media and being public facing. And, even for myself, the mood changes, maybe the erratic anger that just comes out of nowhere. I'm hoping that women listening may, if they don't realize they're in perimenopause, just get more aware about the symptoms, which I do list, in the book as well. But I want you to know there's so much we can do through exercise and lifestyle changes.
It's not just exercise, is it? That's what I love about the book. Thank you for reading that. I think there was some staggering facts in there. it can feel so isolating, can't it? When we're at a time in our lives where we're quite busy, very busy.
Yeah.
And that feeling of not being understood by the people around us who have known us one way for so many years. And then who's this strange woman that's suddenly in the house? Because you feel like someone new.
Yeah.
And they don't recognise you.
No.
Because you're acting differently.
Yeah.
But it's hormone related.
It is. And I think, the challenge is if you are like me, where you've got, teenage children also going through their hormones.
Of course.
And I think a lot of women say they don't feel like themselves, but then when people around you don't really understand what's going on, I think that's what you're saying. And it was devastating for me when I announced it on social media saying I'm 42 or 43 and I've just found out I'm in perimenopause, but all the dots from me having anxiety, which is something that I never felt before. And I would share on those Instagram and YouTube lives that I was doing, and people would ask me, are you okay? And I said I felt anxious before I started, but thank you guys for working out with me because I feel great at the end. To the brain fog, which, I talked about before I sat down. I was like, and I'm going to probably share on my Instagram today because I think that a lot of women feel like you're maybe going mad or you can't remember things or you can't remember someone's name or some memories, which can be really scary. So for me, I really worried because my grandmother had Alzheimer's, which is still quite a taboo subject in the South Asian community, but she really struggled for the last decade of her life. So as you may know, I'm an ambassador for Alzheimer's Society, and it's partly to raise that awareness that there's so much support out there when families like mine, really did feel quite lost and a bit ashamed about it because they didn't really know what to do about it. And of course, the power of exercise and lifestyle changes. But exercise alone is one of the best ways to reduce our risks of things like dementia, by up to 30 to 40%.
That's huge.
Yeah.
How does it have such an... Because I'm going to ask two questions here. How does it have such an impact? But also that reminder that which you talk about a lot, the work we do now in midlife has such a huge impact on our older years, doesn't it?
Yes.
So those 80, 85, 90,
100%.
what we do now really matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, so the quote in my book is that your midlife health is the biggest predictor of your long-term health. Our midlife, we start thinking about how we want to age, and we know that women are living longer. We know that also in midlife, our risks of common chronic illnesses increases. So this is where I want everyone in midlife to really, really understand and prioritize their health. So with the menopause conversation, whether you're at HRT or not, which is such a personal decision, I want this to be the foundation. And I've been obviously living and breathing and testing everything in the book that is not just the exercise side. It's the whole mental health side. I mean, like keeping our brains fit is a message that I always say in all of my workouts, especially when it comes to things like thinking about, dementia, which is so common in women. But the changes in your brain start in your midlife. And there's tools in there, from things like the power of nature that I touched on to things in our lifestyle. So obviously exercise is not alone. So I'm talking about good nutrition, prioritizing and improving our sleep, which I know we battle with. That was one of the other symptoms I had, was those moments of insomnia and the sleepless nights, and that can obviously affect even your motivation to exercise or to move the next day, which is why I do feel that exercise snacking is the perfect solution, because you know that you could just do a 5-minute strength workout. You don't have to go to the gym, and you can just do it in your pajamas with some dumbbells or some plastic bottles or tins, I still demonstrate.
I know you do. I love that.
With my mother-in-law, those workouts.
Those videos with your mother-in-law are so special.
Thank you. They're amazing. She's been my fitness buddy since the beginning of the pandemic. And not only because we reached, obviously I was trying to help, I felt the underserved demographic in the pandemic was the elderly, and I really didn't want them to feel isolated. And I wanted them to know that the research, the section on the book about it's never too late, even over the age of 60, 1 minute of exercise a day can improve their health. And I see people that have never exercised in their 70s, 80s, 90s. We had a lady with Alzheimer's from a care home, age 100, join my workouts regularly. For me, that is life-changing. And the biggest gift, like for me, what an honor to be able to train these incredible, inspiring people every week. So we do have those, obviously, free workouts every week. But even for menopausal women or any of us working from home, sitting too long, they're chair-based desk exercises. They're simple, they're low impact. I do weights, even sitting down. I just want exercise to be accessible and just give you ideas of how you can start.
You're amazing.
Oh gosh.
You are so amazing. My book, Choose You, is out now and offers you ways to prioritise you, meet your needs, say yes to you, develop a more secure sense of self where you feel you matter, learn to set boundaries, wrap yourself in self-love, find your authentic self, and ultimately choose you in the same way you would want those you love to choose themselves too. Choose You, out now. So we're going to move to the next part of the podcast. One of the questions was around how to be motivated, but you've actually got a whole section, haven't you, of being motivated in there. When you think about staying motivated, what comes up for you? What kind of advice would you give to someone listening? Thinking, how can I maintain that motivation?
So I think there's lots of ways to do this. For me personally, it's bottling up that feeling that I was talking about, that release of the endorphins, of how maybe my mood has changed. So I always do a little sense check. And I often ask that in my live workouts, like, how do you feel at the beginning and how do you feel at the end? Even if it's a few minutes, hopefully you're going to feel a bit better. So bottle up that little feeling and think about, okay, that honestly did help me feel better. And it's about having this toolkit of, like when we're low on energy, when our mood is low, when we haven't slept well. These are little things that I know, backed by science, that's the key, right? We're all different. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to fall in love with strength training, but I do want everyone to make sure they're strength training, because muscle mass is probably the key to longevity in my mind. But even if the section on like health span versus lifespan, going back to that, if that page resonates with you, where I really think if we started thinking about how our parents are aging and, we're in that sandwich generation, where, a lot of us may have older children, maybe leaving the nest, but we also have the responsibilities, and it can be heartbreaking watching, our loved ones age. But how do we want to age? How do we want to maintain our independence for as long as possible? And it's like functional movements, like even now, if I got you up and just did some sit and stands, if I didn't call them squats, but just added a rucksack and I just said, Helen, this is mimicking how you're going to be able to stand up and get out of bed and out of the toilet and out of your car and functional activity. So it's reframing the whole way we look at exercise. That's my motivation now, is how hopefully I want to be able to live my best life and be at least, the least burden I can be on my children and my loved ones, and how I can maintain my independence and do the things that I want to do. Because I'm 46, but I'm loving midlife. I want there to be a positive to the whole menopause conversation, because if you can use my story, that I've been going through it and I've had a whole host of symptoms, but I'm thriving and I'm loving it. And it's been a point of reinvention. So I want women to feel a bit of hope and a bit of inspiration that if you're going through it, you can also, like me, maybe just kick off something new. If you've got a little passion, please just go for it, because this is the time I want you to invest in yourselves.
God, I loved you saying that. And I was thinking, at 38, 39, you had no idea that this was going to happen. And actually, it sounds like a really enjoyable time for you.
I love it.
I know, I can really feel that. It's beautiful.
But it's thanks to everyone listening.
It's beautiful.
Thanks to people like you.
No,
it's
thank
everyone.
you. I've got a few questions I wanted to ask
Great.
from my audience. I always ask my wonderful Instagram community to send in questions. But we got so many. So sometimes we have time to answer lots. We've run out of time today because we keep chatting. So I wonder if we do like a quick fire. with these questions. We'll see how we go. First one, how to preserve your energy through perimenopause.
Be kind to yourself. Listen to your body. Be gentle. Find things that work for you, whether it's just a simple stretch or some mobility for your joints. Rest and recovery is key. And social connection is so important. That's probably the most important bit of science, that whole section on how to live a happier and healthier life. It's about hopefully having people around you that you can be open with and share how you're feeling. Yeah, I would just say, just be gentle on yourself and listen to your body.
Love that. Love that. Okay. Is there a holistic way to help with brain fog and forgetfulness?
Oh, yes, I did it this morning on my way here. So I have become a lover of cold water therapy, and I never thought I would because I had Raynaud's, but it's been a game changer in my midlife. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but the science is showing even a little burst like I did, ending my shower with just 10 seconds, 30 seconds of a cold blast can do wonders to banish the brain fog. Walking, I walked this morning, even in the rain, because I knew that that will encourage the blood flow to the brain, which needs it for optimum function. There's a lot of science around moderate intensity activity, so like walking, cycling, swimming, and resistance training for brain fog, which I've quoted in the book. And what I did before I met you was a breath snack. So I don't know if you've seen those in my book.
I love them.
The power of breath is amazing, but just knowing that 1 minute can reset your nervous system and put you in that nice, calm, parasympathetic nervous system where you rest and digest. So a simple 4-6 breath, breathing in for 4, exhaling for 6 is what I did before, but there's lots more snacks to try in the book. And then hydration. I mean, brain fog it can come and go, but there are definitely some tools in the book that I'd love people to maybe try out.
Love it. And I love the fact that you practice what you preach.
Yeah.
Best way to feel less guilt in a relationship with how I feel in perimenopause and menopause. I touched on that earlier, didn't I? About that feeling unrecognisable, and that feeling of not being understood. But so, best way to feel less guilt. I felt sad for that question.
I know, but I think so many of us feel that, and we're juggling, right? All of us. I think we're juggling so many plates all the time, especially as women. I think it's really important, especially for me, because I'm surrounded by boys. I've got my 3 boys and my husband, I've been very open with them. So I want men to be part of the conversation. And that could be men in the workplace around you or your own family. Share what you're going through with your loved ones. Let them read the book. I mean, just that quote that you read about estrogen and how that can affect every cell of our body. They need to understand that this is a phase that we're going through. And the more open we are, I think the more support we'll get. And just talk openly. It's become so normal in my house about the menopause. You know, they're all aware. And I want that to be for their future relationships, whether it's their future partners or their colleagues at work. You know, women in the workplace is a huge topic that I'm very passionate about when I go into workplaces, because I think if I was still in my corporate role, which I did, in my early 20s, that I loved, we don't want that 1 in 10 women, that have left their jobs because of menopause symptoms, or 1 in 4 that are considering it at the moment. It's just heartbreaking. So I think it's very important to not feel guilty and to ask for help and support.
Love that. Communication.
Yes.
Someone said, any research I've read feels confusing. So can you signpost me to resources you trust?
Definitely. So in the book, there's a whole page on useful resources. But for research specifically, the British Menopause Society's website is the most, I would say, very trustworthy. I would also say Menopause Mandate, because I'm a patron of Menopause Mandate. So we've got some wonderful resources on our website. The Balance app is a great one as well. And I'd recommend everyone go there. And also, obviously, my book has a lot of everything backed by science, but there is another useful resource list. So I know there's a lot of noise, but always go for the evidence-based latest research. And I think the NHS website is probably a little bit more updated than it was a few years ago.
Okay, that's fantastic. I'll link all of those
Brilliant.
in the show notes as well. That's so you've offered so many resources there. That's a really helpful answer. Thank you so much. And the last question I ask all my guests is, what does it mean to you to choose you?
Oh, I'm quite taken aback. I guess it's because my mission is to really help others. So I'm always thinking about others. So it's nice to be asked, something for myself. For me, I'm really enjoying the journey, and I'm so blessed and grateful to be on this path, and I'm loving every minute. But I think self-care is so important. And, I've got a whole section that I've written and researched and I put out on social media that self-care isn't selfish and we must prioritize ourselves. And even if it is a little self-care snack, just a few minutes to do something for yourself, whether it's in the morning, and if you haven't got around to it all day, just a simple moment of gratitude, which we know is so powerful, backed by science, journaling gratitude, just having that moment of breath work, a little simple stretch. But I know that self-care is something that I need so that I can fill my cup and then hopefully keep doing what I'm doing and helping others, I'm hoping, in some shape or form. Yeah.
I love that answer, but I really heard in there that you are so giving to others that I think that I want to say, please keep choosing you too.
Definitely. I mean, giving back has been the greatest gift.
Yeah.
But I know I have to look after myself if I want to carry on with this mission. So, yeah, thank you, Helen.
Oh, Lavina, it's been just so gorgeous to chat to you. We could have just kept going for hours.
I know.
So lovely. And I can't thank you enough for coming in to chat with me. I can't wait to share this episode. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
So welcome. And thank you to all of you for listening and watching. And I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, it would mean the world to me if you could review and follow the podcast. Your support means so much to me. So thank you.